Hello and welcome to 99.1 WIUX LP Bloomington. My name is Connor Wright.
I'm Gavin Gorski.
And you're listening to GavCon 5. Today we also have a special guest with us again.
Yes, we have Emily Carrico, the race director of the Little 500 here at Indiana University. Emily, thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I don't know if I have quite the radio voice that the two of you do, but I will try my best here.
I don't know if I really have a radio voice either, honestly.
No, we're just winging it, honestly. Yeah, it's very exciting to have you on. We're gonna get into some questions about Little 500, your experience as a rider, as well as race director, and some other experiences we know you've been part of. So, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to get started, Gavin, with the first question?
Sure. Emily, you grew up in Bloomington. What were your first impressions of the Little 500?
Yes, so I am a townie. I would also consider myself a bloomerang. I moved away from Bloomington and then moved right back. I know that's a fun term if you haven't heard it before. And what I first remember of the Little 500 is one of my good friends in middle school. Her dad was actually a coach for one of the men's teams. And she said, "Hey, do you want to come to this race?" And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And that year it was just pouring down rain. The riders were miserable. It was such an intense feeling, an intense space to be in, and it was so cool. And I was like, oh, this exists, this is in my town, like I could do that. And she and I ran cross country together at the time, and we would actually pretend that we were racing Little 500 while riding our bikes down the Jackson Creek Trail after our cross country practices. So yeah, I love it. I just saw the athletes and saw how fierce they were and was so invigorated by that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned you were running cross country at the time, because it seems like there's a pipeline from high school cross country runners to Little 5 cyclists.
And I didn't even make it to the high school level of cross country, unfortunately. I am exactly one of those quintessential, was a distance runner, got injured, picked up a bike for cross training, and then realized, oh, wait, I can see a lot more of the world this way and I can do it faster. And just was hooked from, there on out.
And you were part of some long distance bicycle tours?
That is
correct?
True, yes. So the way that I really got my feet wet with cycling is, like I said, I was a runner, got injured, and at the time I would take my $20 garage sale mountain bike around town for an hour or something just to get some movement in. And then I heard about this group called Disciples, which is run locally out of Bloomington by a chiropractor. Shout out to Norm. Thank you for doing this. And that group takes riders who have no experience. At the time, I didn't even have a road bike. And you start training in, maybe March. And then by June, July, you are riding across the country with a group. And so it's ages 13 to 22 and some adult chaperones. And so, yeah, I bought my first road bike from Bikesmiths. I still have it today, and I think I started training in March and then was able to start doing, these long cross-country trips during the summer.
Wow, that's really cool. They still do that? Is that still around?
They still do it.
Wow.
It is fantastic, and I really hope that it continues because that was just one of the most transformative experiences for me, is being like, I can wake up every morning. And mind you, you're typically sleeping on church floors and you've got a little blow-up camping, sleeping mat at best with your sleeping bag, and you're tired. And sometimes you're getting woken up by a trumpet at 5 a.m. and you're like, oh, I just remember the feeling of, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to move. I'm so sore. And I would let the little valve of my air mattress open and be like, I have until I touch the floor to get ready and get up and move. And you just don't think you can do it. And then every day you wake up, you get on the bike, and slowly but surely you ride across, towns and counties and states. And so, yeah, I've been lucky enough to ride from coast to coast and border to border, but not all at once.
Wow,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
that is crazy. That's something I want to do at some point. Is like a real bicycle tour, like at least a week long. So
I cannot recommend it enough. There's something so satisfying about your entire goal really being to get from point A to point B, no matter what, and all you're really worried about is like what food will be there at the end and how you know how you're gonna get there.
So like, what kind of routes would you guys take? Or
We had a guy called Mapman, and Mapman routed out everything. And thankfully, Google Earth had come around right as I was starting to ride on these, because before he was really guessing. So you can't legally ride on interstates. So we were doing a lot of roads, kind of like, you know, what Old 37 is now. And just a lot of back roads too. But Mapman would go on and he would look at the terrain and he would look at, you know, how do we connect all these places and make it scenic and also, of course, make it safe. So hats off to him, because we would get these little paper maps every day. They would tell us our topography, you know, how much you're going to go up, how much you're going to go down, tell you all of your turns, and give you a general sense of, you know, what that route looked like. But it wasn't like you plugged it into a Garmin. I mean, you had turns on a piece of paper, and your group leader was the one that had that piece of paper, and you kept it in a plastic bag so it wouldn't get covered in sweat and rain. And they would try to chalk the turns ahead of time, but if you missed it, you were just riding a longer day, and that was it. You know, then you'd have to turn around and go back and figure out how to get where you're supposed to be.
wow.
So how often did you end up missing turns and, you know, having to backtrack a little bit?
Not very frequently, but the one that I do remember is it was on my birthday. I must have been turning, I think it might have been my 18th birthday, and I was sick, but I still wanted to ride, because if you rode and you got no flats, no mechanicals, and you never rode in what we called affectionately the wussy wagon, you got the Triple Crown, right? So I really wanted my Triple Crown. And on my birthday, we were near Asheville and riding through the mountains, and it was supposed to be like an 85-mile day. And that's enough in the mountains. It's enough really anywhere. And I was so tired and feeling so poorly that I missed the turn for our group. And so we turned it into a century. And I had a fever and I was miserable and my whole group was mad at me. But we made it.
Oh my God.
Wow. So have you ridden through, I mean, Asheville's around the Appalachians. I assume that's what you're riding through. Have you been through like the Rocky Mountains and the Smoky Mountains as well?
Yes. I've been through both of those. And Rocky Mountains a couple times, so I've gotten really lucky and got to ride up Trail Ridge Road. That's the highest continually paved road in the States. And it is just breathtaking. Yeah. And quite literally, because once you get up there, the air gets thinner.
Yeah, you actually can't breathe anymore.
Wow.
Have you been to like national parks too, riding across the country?
I have, yeah. And so those trips certainly stopped through a few. And then one that I got to do with some of my friends when I was in college was we went out to Glacier National Park and we did Going to the Sun Road.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Like my favorite road ever. Also terrifying because there are lots of points where if you...
Yeah.
You know, go over the edge, you're probably not going to come back.
1,000 feet off the road.
Just out of this world.
Yeah, I worked there last summer. I saw hundreds and hundreds of cyclists.
Oh, so you
Big
know.
groups every morning at like 6 a.m.
Yes.
Starting on the road. It was pretty
Well,
crazy.
and that's the thing is you're not permitted on the road after 11 in the morning. So you have to get up, get going,
They have little windows,
get up
so
there, and then get down.
It's because in the middle of the day, the road gets insanely busy with cars. And to have I ran on the road. To have a runner and 2 cars is really cramped. To have like a cyclist who has to be on the road in 2 cars, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's overload. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. I'm so envious you got to spend a few months there because I love Montana, and that's one of the places that I would look to move if I didn't live here.
What was that phrase? Bloomerang?
Bloomerang.
I've never
Yes.
I've never heard that either, but I'm going to start using that now.
There's quite a few of us out there, so I'm not
sure.
alone.
It's almost everybody, it seems. They leave and they're like, actually, I want to come back.
It's a pretty special place, and I think that I appreciate that before I left, and I didn't think that I would be coming back so soon, but especially when you get the chance to go experience a lot of other places, I think you do realize just how special it is here.
Yeah.
Going back to that a little bit, transitioning back to Little 500, what kind of impact do you think the Little 500 has on the culture of IU and Bloomington in general?
Well, I will tell you that whenever I hear the term Little 500, I am thinking of those 2 days in April. I'm thinking of all the training that goes into it. My mind really goes to the cyclists, and I know that isn't always what maybe the general public thinks of, but oh my goodness, the people that have heard of Bloomington and have heard of the Little 500 through things like breaking away, you can go so many places. I was actually talking to our mechanic this morning, and he was talking about where he's seen other Little 500 bikes. And I was like, I was in a shop in Colorado a few years ago before I was even a rider, and they had a Little 500 bike up on the wall. So that speaks, I suppose, more to the, nation. But in terms of Bloomington, I think it really helps make us a cycling hub, and we are perfect for that because we have so many beautiful roads, so many different routes. And on top of that, we've got great, state-of-the-art trails over at Brown County if you're into mountain biking, and then also fantastic gravel, especially if you're willing to start, maybe 10 miles outside of city limits. Like, I love a lot of the gravel right around Lake Lemon. So I think it really enriches our bike culture.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to make my own routes recently.
How's that been going?
It's been going well. I think I didn't realize one time that a road was a gravel road. I didn't ride on it. I eventually figured it out, but yeah. I definitely realized there are a decent amount of gravel roads around here.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is just give yourself the time to go out and get lost. Have a fully charged phone, but I've found just some of my favorite roads just by going out and exploring and going, I'm curious what's down there. Okay, I'm going to take that turn, and I don't have to be back for class or work or whatever it is immediately. And sometimes it's a dead end, but sometimes you find something really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try and take that advice.
It's good summer advice when you have hopefully
summer.
a little less going on.
On your days off, you just go wherever.
Yeah.
You report back on your adventures, though.
Make sure it makes it to Strava so you can find it later.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually posted, I did a little rollers workout today, and I posted the image, our little flyer promoting the show on Strava.
Oh, too funny.
Just to try and get the word out a little bit. But
I love that. Strava's kind of turned into I don't know, the athletes' Facebook and stuff now. I mean, people will do whole synopses of their rides and their experience and add pictures, and it's a whole community. I don't think I tap into it as much as I could. I'm pretty lazy. My Garmin will auto upload, and I just let that happen. I don't do anything else.
Lunch ride. It is kind of weird how it is social media, but I don't know. It's fun, I feel like. But it is, some people do get really into it, which is interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, there's varying levels of it. We use it a little bit in cross country too. Some people would it become like a competition to them. They'd be like, oh, this guy's running X number of miles. I'm only doing this. I need to step it up. And then other people I don't really care. I just want to see how fast people are going.
Yeah. Sometimes you can compare yourself to others, and that's
But it is cool if you're sharing routes and things.
Definitely.
It's really good for that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can find some really cool routes that way, and then also try to not get caught up in however many miles someone else is logging or how many hours they're getting a week, because it doesn't really apply to you, does it? Or your training or what you need.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I've definitely stolen people's routes before. So.
Were they good ones?
Oh, of course they're good.
Okay. You never know. You could be like, this looks good, and then it's not.
We were talking about this a little bit before the show, but this year in 2023, the Little 500 will use state bicycles rather than Schwinn, which I don't know how long they've been using Schwinn, but it was a while, right?
Yeah, so I can't recall the exact year, and I should probably be able to tell you. But yeah, we were with Schwinn for a while. Before that, I believe it was Mongoose. Before that, Roadmaster, and maybe not in that order. So certainly not the first time the Little 500 has transitioned their bicycles. But let me tell you, our state bikes are just beautiful. They, in my opinion, will be running smoother with those 3-piece cranks, and I am so excited because I don't know if anyone listening has had the joy of pulling apart those 1-piece crank sets and having to clean out those bottom brackets with all those loose ball bearings and scrub cinders out of them, and then try to perfectly tighten it back. I will say that I will not be missing that, and I think that's a kind of initiation step that I'm happy riders in the future will get to miss now that we have those sealed bottom brackets. I think that will make things a lot better. But yeah, State put a lot of effort into taking the input from IUSF very seriously, and the design that's out is one that our Riders Council designed and selected. So I think it's a super, super fun bike, and I cannot wait until we get to see the track full of them.
Yeah, I'm excited. Have you seen it, Connor?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's like candy stripe. It's like cream and crimson, the design this year.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and the wheels have red rims, which is
Okay,
just
that's pretty cool.
super fun, and it's kind of, I feel like, this nice vintage feel, but it's updated. Yeah, I cannot wait. I've gotten to do a few laps on the track on the one that our mechanic built for me, and it is a smooth ride.
Sweet.
Yeah, you should be getting really excited then, Gavin.
I am. Anyway, could you talk more about your experiences as a Little 500 rider for ski cycling? That was your team.
Yeah, that's
cyclist.
correct. So, as I can talk at length about this, you can interrupt and let me know what direction you want me to take it. But as I said, I came from a background of riding a bike, which I thought kind of gave me a leg up, and in reality, riding those long, slow miles is not that beneficial to what we were trying to do for Little 5. So when I joined the team, I was like the slowest gal. I was last of all the hills. But I found this community of women that was just so impressive and so supportive, yet competitive, and so smart and athletic. And I was just kind of blown away. And really, really lucky to find that community where I, just got to fit into. So yeah, I was lucky enough to race from 2016 to 2019, which I could have never imagined happening. When I started on the team, I think we maybe had 11 girls, and I was like, if I just stick with this long enough, I'm just going to keep trying, and maybe I'll be able to race as a junior. And surely enough, one by one, girls kind of fell off for one reason or another and didn't commit to it, and I ended up being on our race team, which, like I said, I really couldn't have imagined, and then got lucky enough to do that year after year, and become team captain and serve on Riders Council, and truly the best experience. And I think you'll hear people say that the friends you make in Little 5 are lifelong, and that really is true. I got to be a bridesmaid for one of my old teammates this past summer, and those are the people I still talk to every day. So yeah, it's a good bonding experience for sure.
Wow, it's great to hear.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite memories specifically from that experience?
I have too many to count. Too many, and typically it's not the ones that feel that are great in the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can tell you about the time that we rode quals, and it was quite literally a blizzard, and we were riding through snow on the track, and we were 10 feet out of the gutter. That sticks out to me more than the year after when our team got to win quals. I first think of the blizzard rather than thinking of the year that we, placed first. I think of a time that we had a team trip down in Alabama, and we rode 100 20 miles around the Mobile Bay and had all kinds of challenges just doing that. And we got to where this ferry should be, and like the ferry was closed. And that was literally our ticket home. You know, we had 2 miles to, as the crow flies, to get home, and this ferry's closed. And we're like, what are we going to do? And then 2 of my tires went flat, and we only had 1 Cliff Bar to eat between like the 6 of us. Thankfully, we had a teammate that had turned around early in the ride, and she drove 3 hours around the bay and came to our rescue to pick us up. But there's so many good memories I have where at the time maybe you don't love it, but it's what sticks with you and you remember it fondly afterwards. I think that they also call that like athletes amnesia.
Yeah.
It's like when you have that type B fun and then it's kind of miserable as you're doing it, but in retrospect, you just love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes for a great story too when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Always
Like,
the best.
It's
stories.
not interesting if everything
If
goes
it goes
well.
perfectly, you're like, meh. You know, congrats on winning, I guess. But if everything goes terribly, it's really funny.
Right, exactly. Do you guys have any good memories from your athletic endeavors so far here at IU?
Connor, you go first.
Yeah, okay. I got one, not from here at IU because I don't really have any athletic endeavors here. Kind of retired as soon as I got to campus. But I did a backpacking trip like 4 years ago, I think, at this point, out in New Mexico, with Boy Scouts. And we were in the desert.
Oh, is it at
so
Philmont?
It was.
Nice.
Have you been there?
I have not, but I have just heard the best things.
Yeah, it's really cool there. But like our first 6 days, it rained and hailed 5 out of 6 days. And like we were in the desert. I'm like, how is this happening? Like, it's not supposed to rain at all here. Like, it's a desert and it's raining every single day. And so the last day that it hailed, we're all sitting on our backpacks in the woods, like covering our necks in case we get struck by lightning. And hail was just like beating me. And I'm like, okay, I want to leave. This sucks. And then it didn't rain any of the other days, and it was fine. But it's just at that moment, I was like, what am I doing out here?
I don't know if I just asked for one of your best memories or just one of your memories, because that doesn't sound super pleasant.
Well, okay, at the time, I was like, I don't think I'll do that again. But now I love backpacking and everything. So looking back, I'm like, actually, that's pretty fun. It's a great story to tell.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You got one now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not the same scale as that, but when we went to Florida over winter break, well, one, we were looking forward to riding on the velodrome, the like Brian Piccolo velodrome in South Florida, but it was closed for renovations. Like literally the week we were there, it was only closed for like 2 weeks total. Anyway, so we rode on this like criterium track instead. And there were a bunch of iguanas there. So like we were literally like trying to like race and stuff, and we were trying to like dodge these iguanas on the like, criterium track. And at one point we were riding at a pace line. There were like 3 guys riding at a pace line right, in front of each other.
Yeah.
And this iguana came out in front of the first guy, and he like my teammate Ethan, he braked. And like basically the guys behind him crashed. Like
They all run straight into him, basically.
yeah,
How do you even call that out? Are you like, iguana right, iguana left? Like,
basically.
Were they just like sprint onto the track as you're...
Yeah, it was on this one part of the track specifically where I guess it was like sunny because they were trying to like get in the sun.
Okay.
So it was
I'm trying to imagine this.
so
Yeah,
yeah, they would just run across anyway.
I feel like that's really good training for little 5. Anything could come across the
Yeah.
track at any moment. You never know. Well,
Yeah. That's
true.
really, it's quite a safe track. But hey, someone's wheel could move and you're not anticipating it. So
Yeah.
the iguanas
Exactly.
have prepared you well.
It's all the
It
bike
is an
handling
exercise
skills.
right
Yeah.
there.
Where does the name ski cycling come from? I've always wondered that.
Yeah, good question. And it is funny. So it came from the ski and snowboard club. So the girl who started our team, her brother rode, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember for what team he rode for. But anyway, Natalie Laser saw, I think his name's Tom, riding, and she was like, oh, I should do that. And so she decided to start the ski and snowboard club cycling team. And as you can see, that's quite a mouthful. So when I joined, it was the 3rd year of the team existing, and we were ski cycling. And then after a bit, or we were ski club cycling. And then after a bit, we just dropped it to ski. So I will say that I am not a skier or a snowboarder. I'm quite pitiful in that regard, but we actually have gotten quite a few girls to join over the years through like those ski and snowboard call out meetings.
Wow.
And
That's pretty cool.
And one year we went to Snowmass, which is near Aspen. I think it's my freshman year with the club, which was a trip. But we had a sponsor who said, if one of your riders goes down a Black Diamond route, we'll give you like $1,000 in sponsorship money. So I couldn't even ski on the greens, so I was out. But thankfully, we had someone who had lived near the French Alps, and so she goes, great, I'll get up there and do that, and take one of our other teammates' siblings with her. And they did it. It took them quite a while because you take all the, chairlifts up, and then they had to get in a snowmobile and be like pulled up. And then you get onto like the very top of this ridge. They didn't know they were on a double black expert. They ended up on the hardest of the hardest. And so they had to hike up the rest of this ridge, create their own little platform by packing snow in order to go off of it. So I'm so happy it wasn't me. I would have died. But we got the sponsorship money.
Nice.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
That was definitely a good story to tell.
Yeah, and Megan, our captain, is the one who deserves all the credit because, like I said, would not have happened without her.
Yeah, I think it's a good little break point right there. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to 99.1 WIUX LP Bloomington. You're still listening to GavCon 5, and we're still here with Emily, talking about Little 500 stuff and whatever else we end up getting into, whatever the topics.
Yeah, cycling in general.
Yeah, cycling across the country.
Well, we could switch gears a little bit. Emily, I noticed you're a registered dietitian nutritionist.
That's correct. Yes.
What interests you the most about dietetics and nutrition?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can tell you why I got into it. I suppose just because I love food and I was super interested in, just reading food labels and I suppose just knowing kind of what was going into my body. And I think that that's kind of what got me curious about it. And then I realized like, oh, this is like a profession. Like you could do this. And I would say what has held my interest in it is really that everyone eats food and everyone has a relationship with food. And I think that it's so interesting to know what makes people tick and, why they eat what they eat. And I would say my biggest passion with food tends to be kind of helping people think about their behaviors and why they eat the foods they do. And especially in the context of, I think there's a good deal of people have a poor relationship with food and have the ability to improve it. Not even so much like how you typically think of probably a dietitian of like, oh, well, if you eat McDonald's, I will tell you not to do that. But more in the terms of like, don't feel shame if you eat cake or, things like that. Like it's something to celebrate, to like, to enjoy your food, enjoy what you're eating. So, and then of course there's the whole other athletic piece where I just personally have an interest in how food fuels athletic performance and have gone out of my way to learn about that. So.
Yeah. Obviously there's a lot of crossover between, nutrition and cycling specifically. Do you have any tips for cyclists?
I forget specifically.
Or for runners. Or,
Yeah, plenty of tips. If I could go back and change how I ate when I was a cyclist or, at IU in cycling, oh my goodness, there's so many things I would do differently. And I thought I was doing things well, and I already had the interest in nutrition, of course. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, I could have eaten more calories and I could have eaten more variety of foods. And I think one of the biggest things is when you're on the bike, you really need to be eating like 200 calories an hour at least, probably closer to 300 calories, and try to make sure that mostly comes from carbs. And once I started eating, at least 3 Cliff Bars and some watered down Gatorade or something on my 3-hour rides, I was like, oh, I can take the long way home, like every time. And like, oh, I'm recovering a lot faster from these things. And I just inadvertently like was under fueling myself. And I think that there are so many cyclists that also tend to land in that category, especially if you're new, because you just don't realize how much it takes out of your body. And it is a lot.
Yeah, definitely a lot of calories. So, like I eat Cliff Bars normally, but I also bring like gummy bears on my rides. Do you think that that's a bad idea, or?
I don't think your dentist wants to hear this. I know mine doesn't. But yes, I think gummy bears are a good idea. When you're on the bike, those simple sugars, your body really loves having those simple sugars, right? When you're looking at being off the bike, and is that the recovery snack you want to go for? Maybe not. And of course, I think, varying what you're eating is the right move. Don't eat gummy bears every single ride. But in terms of just what your body can easily turn into fuel, it's a pretty good way to do it. Let's see, what are some of my favorites? I did a lot of Pop-Tarts. I've also done gummy bears, Fig Newtons, things like that. Some of those are a bit higher in fat than they should be, but I'm not an Olympic athlete, so I don't worry about it.
It's about like the glycemic index, right? Isn't that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's part of it.
Like how fast your body turns it into energy or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it's like, why would you and it also really depends on what you're doing, and it depends on the event. So are you talking about fueling for an ultra like endurance event, or are you talking about fueling for a 1 to 2 hour bike race where you're doing, maybe 10 laps or so on a flat track? It's a very different thing that you're looking at. So
I see. Okay, cool.
yeah, especially for like those longer events, you do want to start incorporating more like fat and protein and stuff. And whereas when it's those shorter events, that's when you're looking really more just getting carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, switching gears again a tiny bit. Still not talking about the Little Five though. What was your before you became the Little Five race director? You worked with the city of Bloomington.
That's correct.
So
yeah.
How would you describe that experience, and what drew you to the city, and then what are the main differences between this job and that one, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose I graduated, became a dietitian, worked at the hospital, wanted to do more kind of community-based stuff, and the city is fantastic, and their Parks and Recreation department is just awesome. And so it was really a dream to have that opportunity to work for them. So I was their health and wellness coordinator. So kind of whatever needs I saw or opportunities I was approached with that just gave an opportunity for improving health in our parks, I was able to kind of take and run with. And that was so fun. And that department, I just cannot say enough good things about the work that they do. They are great, and we are so lucky to have them here in Bloomington. And truly, I was not looking for a job, but I got approached for this role, and it was very hard to say no. How is it different? I would say that my days have a lot more meetings, a lot more student interaction. The pace is a bit faster. I think those are all things that suit me pretty well, though.
Have you seen Parks and Rec?
I have seen Parks and Rec, and everyone in that department just about has as well. And there's some truth there. It's also ironic that it takes place in Indiana. So
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Oh, and Bloomington makes an appearance in Parks and Rec too.
I know, and so does like Upland, and yeah.
So many Indiana references.
I know.
We're like the most famous of the least famous states, at least in my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got people have heard the Little Five. They've heard of the Indy 500 too.
Exactly.
So, but they're like, where is that again?
So is there like a real Leslie Knope in the Bloomington Parks Department?
I think what is funny is everyone has a little bit of her, and you can kind of like pick it out when your Leslie Knope is coming out a little bit, and lots of passion, and yeah, I don't think it's just it resides in one person. I think it's a little bit in everyone.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I imagine the Parks Department attracts a certain kind of person who wants to work in government. Because they're like parks and in nature and like trails and stuff.
Yeah, and the staff there is so cool. Like they're all fantastic. They're all very passionate about what they
Yeah.
do, and I mean, just what a unique thing to be a part of.
Were you there when like Switchyard Park opened?
I
Or,
was
like-
not.
Oh, okay.
No, but that is an awesome space.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I know you're about to talk about how great it is.
Anyway,
Yeah, they did such a good job with that park, and I think one of the best things is that you see people from all walks of life there and all ages, and they kind of come from all over Bloomington to enjoy it, and lots of students, and of course you have the Beeline going through there, and
Yeah.
I just love that that's a park that I feel like it does such a good job of being there for everyone.
yeah, definitely.
No, I just love all of our parks.
You're like all of the parks there for me.
I mean, if I had to pick a favorite though, Griffey Lake, definitely up
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah,
And it's so special to have that with a city and like so close to campus. And yeah, the team that manages that is just awesome. Shout out to Rebecca.
I think
and
they're doing more trail work on it this year too.
They are,
They're expanding the
yes.
trail, or they're actually connecting the trail that goes all the way around the lake now.
Yes, and this has been like a long-term
Yeah.
goal. And so, yeah, they're going to have the loop trail where you can go all the way around. And I cannot remember the completion date for that, but it is not horribly far out. So, yeah, they're doing a great job with it.
No,
I wanna
I'm
go
personally
back.
excited for that.
I've only been there a couple times, but I gotta go back sometime.
You should.
It's
You
just
can-
down the hill.
Ride your bike there, take a break, go for a hike, and then finish your ride.
Yeah, and struggle up that.
Yeah. So that hill is really, really steep, both sides.
Well, we could switch into talking about Little 500 again. I know one of your goals for as race director is increasing the field of teams, especially in the women's race. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me more about this goal?
Absolutely. Well, I think that this is something where as you look at just Little Five as a whole, the women's field has kind of waxed and waned over the years. And, we're certainly in a point where post-COVID, we're looking just to get more growth in both of the fields and especially the women's field. And I don't think that we're unique in this, unfortunately. I think that, student participation is down in a good deal of areas. But, of course, I love cycling, and I love seeing women get the chance to ride a bike and give them kind of, sometimes it's a courage thing, they kind of need to feel the courage and the belonging to do it. So I will say that this year, with me getting started, mid-January and registration closing, about a month, 5 weeks after I started, the students had a great effort already going, reaching out to previous teams that existed, both men's and women's, trying to get them to get teams started and get them, on that registration list before we close this evening. But already looking at, what can be done next year and who are we not reaching out to and how do we get the word out, especially earlier, plant, that seed this spring that, hey, you can get involved even in the fall. We do so many cool things to the track in the fall, and you can get your rookie requirements then. And, it's never too early to start thinking about a team.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially like at the race, I think for me, that was like the point when it was like, okay, maybe I do want to do this. So like,
Yeah.
So you're someone that attended, and once you saw it, you were like,
Yeah.
oh, cool.
yeah, definitely. Well, then I was like thinking about it over the summer. I was like, well, should I do that or not? But eventually I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just join.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can't know what you're getting yourself into. Like you can't fully understand. But I think, yeah, how do you get people just to give it a go? And I mean, when I was on a team, it was always about if I would meet someone I thought might be interested, I would put it out there and I'd be like, hey, let's go get coffee, or if you have a bike, let's go on a short ride, and just try to show them how awesome it was, while also not coming on so strong that you won't stop talking about it, because that's easy to do. So
How do you think you can make the race more accessible? I mean, cycling isn't like an expensive sport, so
You said cycling. Yeah,
I mean, like just buying a bike in the first place can be expensive. So
absolutely. I know. I think that the only sport that I could pick that might cost me more would be like, horse racing or something.
You can buy a horse.
Yeah. But I will say, in terms of an accessible race, I think that's something that the Student Foundation has done just a great job of over the years is making it so the entry fee is $100. And so when you can pick up your bike, end of February, start of March and build it and then train on it. And then if you turn it back in after the race, like that $500 bike deposit, you get it back. So I think that they've done a great job of really trying to keep it low stakes in order to be able to enter and participate. Obviously, it's hard to control the bike economy, and I mean, as we all saw during COVID, prices just went up for everything. But yeah, like I said, they've done a great job of keeping it accessible, and I think even more so than maybe the monetary part of it is just like how do you keep the knowledge is something that's accessible to people. And that's something that I really like to try and focus on because in my mind, training for a little five it's this folklore. It's this spoken thing that's passed down. There's not an actual way to do it that's written down, right? And so it kind of generates that community. And if you can help teams by just sharing some of that knowledge that you have, I think that makes a really big difference in their experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. I think one thing that's good too is that the fact that you can rent a bike at the Wilcox House, like a road bike.
Yes.
I've rented one before, and I know other people on my team have, so that's like
absolutely
pretty good.
And I don't know that when I was a student that other students made quite as good of use of that, whereas now it's all the time we have someone, coming and checking out a bike. No matter the weather, there was someone doing it today, that brave soul. Good for her. And I think that's just fantastic that that's a resource that's being utilized and our mechanic takes care of them, tunes them up, keeps them in great shape. And same thing when you come to things like the rookie clinics, like we have bikes for everyone to ride that are professionally maintained. And I think that makes a really big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like if you're not sure you want to do it yet, not having to buy a bike immediately is a good thing, I think. Mm-hmm. So
absolutely. Yeah. It's a big commitment.
And you keep talking about like the Little Five mechanics. So what do they do? What are their responsibilities with the race and everything?
So our Little 500 mechanic is Greg. And if you haven't met him before, please stop by the shop. He is just so friendly. And he started my senior year of college. And I cannot say enough good things about him because he has so much knowledge, so much experience, and he just loves like the students and loves helping them learn about bikes, make sure their bike is safe, help them maintain their bikes. But his predominant, I'd say, on paper kind of responsibilities are making sure that our large fleet of Little 500 bikes are ready to be rented out to all of our track users and that they're safe. He also is neutral support during the race. So say if your bike, both of your bikes are not usable, like the frame's broken or the wheels are tacoed, whatever. He also has bikes that are ready to go during the race and during some of our events that teams can use. So he's fantastic if you haven't met him.
Yeah, he helped me put my Little 5 bike together.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah, he's really nice. Like he's kind of like the Bob Ross of bike mechanics, I would say, like in the way he explains things.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like you just become that when you're around these things. Just like not even just biking, just like anything. You're just like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's like muscle memory, and I love doing it. Let me explain it to everybody else now.
Yeah. No, yeah, he's doing a great job.
We all love him.
It is cool though. There's so many, like on the ceiling, on the walls, like so many Little 500 bikes in that shop.
And we've had, especially with Rookie Week, we've had almost all of them out, like every session, and that's so cool. There was one night last week, and I cannot remember if it was during a men's or women's basketball game. I apologize, but our women's track session was running, and we had I think maybe 4 bikes left out of the nearly 70 that we have in the shop. And so they were all out there, in the evening practicing together and learning. And that just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Well, so there already are some like women's teams that are coming back, right?
Oh, absolutely.
With rookie week going on last week and this week.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of returning teams from previous years, and then also a few teams that are just kind of reestablishing after maybe having a lull for a couple of years. And yeah, we're super, super excited. Hopefully some like completely new ones too. That's always fun when you get teams where they haven't even existed before and someone decided, hey, I'm going to go out of my way and, make this happen, because getting a team started, it does take some extra, work. It's very doable, and we do our best to make it as easy as possible, but you have to be very intentional about wanting to have a team.
Yeah, on my team, we've kind of experienced that. Like, I do kind of feel like jealous of like the fraternity teams or other teams that have like so much support, like have alumni, like being a relatively new team. Well, like Cinzano existed in like the 80s. I think they last raced in 2007, but so we're bringing it back, but still like there's no like upperclassmen that are like, helping us. So
yeah.
Anyway.
I know. Yeah. Having those resources is so nice. And that's one of the things where I feel like the knowledge that's passed down, it does make a big difference, but also like so exciting. Like I started with my team when they were in their 3rd year. And so we were kind of in our infancy trying to, figure it out. And they got, top 10 on just a stock bike, I think both years prior to me being there. And, we learned a lot and we used a lot of outside resources. And I think we really got the chance to mold it into the team that we wanted, and didn't really have the pressure of alumni. Sometimes people have the expectations weren't there, and that was freeing, but also, yeah, it can be a good challenge to learn and kind of feel like you're up to speed on everything.
Yeah, well, so then maybe I'll look at it optimistically.
It's okay. You can be frustrated too. That's totally fine.
Well, the last little 5, I mean, it's definitely true. There's pressure from alumni, because I went to the last little 5 with Gavin, and like I'd see all kinds of men who had probably been out of school for maybe a decade or so, coming back with all their shirts and hats and gear from their fraternities, cheering on their teams. And like that to me said that it was a pretty big deal for that fraternity, that even the people who had already left still came back because they wanted to see their team win.
Absolutely. You get people coming back that rode on teams in like, the 50s and the 60s. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. And I mean, I think that just speaks to how much of a bonding experience it really, really is, and how much it stays with you. It's so unique.
The alumni network.
Yeah.
is huge.
It is huge. I don't know. Some of them probably aren't very active, because my dad is in the little 5, but he doesn't really talk about it that much or do a whole lot unless I ask him. Same with my uncle, I think.
I mean, even if it's like 10% of people that are like super active, that's still
a lot.
So, how many do you know how many teams there were like before COVID, and how did that change? Like, how many teams did they actually lose?
I would love if I had those numbers off the top of my head. I believe that in the women's field we had 31 teams in 2019, and I really only know that because I was partaking. And then in the men's, they had over 33, but I do not know the exact number. And I mean, like I said, I don't think that we're unique, unfortunately. I think it's something everyone's kind of had to deal with, of like, kind of had to deal with what's the new normal at first, and then now it's kind of like, okay, now we're basically back to normal, and how do we start getting people out and interacting with each other and getting out of their house again, and just seeing all these cool things. And I think that there's such a power of community and like word of mouth, especially with something like Little 5. And if you've lost some of those social connections and interactions you've been able to have over the past couple of years, then I think that can decrease the number of students that have heard about it or feel like they can participate in it. And so I'm optimistic that will be rebuilding.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was thinking about too is like my coaches told me that back when he went to IU, which I think he graduated in I forget what year, but I think it was in the 80s. I should probably know that, but I want to say 1985. There were a lot of dorm teams, and specifically on a single floor, they could have a team.
Yeah.
But you would never see that now. Like, there's barely any dorm teams around anymore.
No, and I also think that students used to live in the dorms for all 4 years, whereas now it's something that you really do as a freshman, maybe as a sophomore, and then you're not really there unless you're an RA. So I think that culture has shifted too.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because Wright used to have, whatever their sections are called. I don't even know what they're called. But, one certain building used to have a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think when my grandfather went here in, the late 60s, mid to late 60s, they had a team. And I think he's talked about them before because he lived in that dorm. He wasn't on the team, but he knew they existed.
The dorm culture has shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Well, now students live off campus a lot more.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of those things where, I think we just try to keep up with how things change, keep the tradition and keep the race moving forward, and then also adapt as well, just as students change. And I think that's one of the things is it's comprised of 18 to 22-year-olds, and talk about a dynamic group. I mean, that is just when people are changing and growing and learning and adapting, faster than I think just about anyone else at any point in their lives. So I love that it's a student-led group and that it's a student-led, organization. The staff are there to support the students, but really it's their race and how they want to see it change, what they want to do with it, what they want to make of it, which is just so cool.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing stopping point right there. Thank you for that. Thanks for listening to GavCon 5, everybody. Tune in next Friday from 2 to 3 again. We'll have another special guest. Is it? David Wolf-Bender, yes. He's the other student running for Bloomington City Council. So get excited for that. And thanks for listening to GavCon 5. And have a great weekend.